heard the both of them again fighting like kids in the schoolyard. Zohran, your resume could fit on a cocktail napkin, and Andrew, your failures could fill a public school library in New York City. Okay, go ahead, Katie.
Would any of you accept Mayor Adams' endorsement? Mr. Mamdani?
No.
Mr. Cuomo?
Yes, I would.
Mr. Sliwa?
Absolutely not. Put that crook in jail where he belongs.
And final, a fun one.
Be careful. Be careful.
What is your favorite live music venue in New York City, Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, chain smokers. EDM.
Under the K Bridge, I presume.
That's right, the Kosciuszko Bridge.
Mr. Mamdani?
Forest Hill Stadium.
Mr. Cuomo?
Under the Kosciuszko Bridge.
Have you seen a show under the K Bridge?
Okay.
Who'd you see?
No, I picked up my daughters at a show.
So last night was the second and final New York City mayoral debate, and I gotta be honest with you, I thought Zohran Mamdani really did struggle at times. It was far from a good performance from him, and the reason that is because every time he is asked the specific details of how he's going to implement a lot of these fairy tale policies, he can't really give a straightforward answer. And that is because why? As Actual Justice Warrior pointed out here, the greatest lie ever told is that Mamdani is winning on policy. This is the most vibes-based, policy-less campaign we've ever seen. And yes, when he was pressed on any issue, he immediately dodges like a lifelong politician. This is something we've pointed out repeatedly when he's asked, how are you going to pay for all the free buses and stuff? And he says, oh, well, we're going to ask the governor to raise New York's income tax. But the governor of New York literally just said she's running on a campaign of not raising the income tax. So how is that going to be compatible? Oh, just trust me. No, we're going to have all of these things, right? And secondly, I thought that Mamdani's opponents really did manage to get in some good shots. I mean, Cuomo had a couple of times where he really got a good line in on Mamdani, although Cuomo has plenty to be criticized about. But I thought truly the big winner here was the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, because unlike the last debate, he was not a sideshow. He actually had the time to speak. And what you started to quickly learn is that on one hand, again, you have Mamdani, who's running entirely on vibes. You have Andrew Cuomo, who is, frankly, I would argue, also running on vibes. I don't really get a lot of ideas out of him either. The difference is, in the eyes of the New Yorkers, Cuomo has worse vibes than Mamdani, because at least Mamdani's something new. Cuomo's basically just running as, oh, I'm the corrupt, crooked establishment politician who's here to ruin the city yet again. But you compare that all to Curtis Sliwa, who is authentic, who is really the only person out of these three candidates who is a real New Yorker, right? Mamdani got a citizenship like, what, 6 years ago? Andrew Cuomo, I guess, was technically born in New York City, but he spent most of his life upstate. Yet, meanwhile, when you ask Curtis a question on any New York issue, because he's lived it and because he's so versed with it, with the guardian angels and all that, he immediately is like, here's how we solve the problem. Here's exactly what we should do. And furthermore, I gotta be honest, I thought he was inspiring, right? I heard him give an answer, and I'm immediately like, I want to run through a brick wall for this guy. So not saying necessarily that he's going to win the election simply because he won the debate. I think we've broken that down time and time again. But I do have to say at this point, you know, I've kind of done a full 180 on this, and I'll be completely honest about that. You know, earlier this summer, I thought Sliwa should just drop out and you get behind one candidate. That way you can, try to stop Mamdani. You know, when you really break it down, if we're to be honest with ourselves, I actually regret saying that, because I think Cuomo is the real problem in this election, right? Cuomo is the reason Mamdani is winning on many different levels, and we'll break that down and show you why and talk about that more in today's video. But again, recap here incoming of the New York City mayoral debate. First though, guys, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is not only the best way to support our work, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that's it. I mean, we'll kind of recap some moments that I liked from the New York City mayoral debate. And I'd actually like to start, you know, we don't normally do this, but with the opening statements, because this kind of shows you, again, the contrast between these three candidates and why, again, I'm kind of pro Sliwa at this point. Actually, I'm extremely pro Sliwa after the debate, because Cuomo sucks, okay? And, you know, if he had an actual chance of beating Mamdani, I might be open to doing the compromise or protest vote. But that's the thing. He doesn't. He's run a terrible campaign. He's the one, frankly, who should have dropped out of the race, especially given he's not even trying. Like, he's not even trying to win this election. He didn't try to win the Democrat primary. And then we're going to blame Curtis Sliwa, who's like actually a sincere guy trying to win the election, you know. But anyways, all right, take a listen to this, and then you'll see kind of the contrast, as I said, between these candidates.
Good evening.
Thank you. It's us versus them. It's us versus the insiders and the billionaires. It's us versus Cuomo. It's us versus Zohran. This is a campaign not about power. This is a campaign about you, the people. And I know many of you hardworking New Yorkers, you tell me you've been pushed aside, you've been silenced. These are the people that have all the money, all the connections. They've made their backroom deals, but we have something more important. We have you, the people. And we're not going to be silenced anymore. We're going to fight. Tonight, I want you to look at the content of my policies, to know that I've served this city for more than 50 years, the city that I love. And I'm going to share with you my vision to make New York City safer again, to make New York City more affordable again, and where everybody once again can live the American dream.
Thank you.
See, so immediately, we'll get into specifics, but you hear that opening statement, people can disagree. I thought that was like, you know, I thought it was inspiring, it was dynamic. He, as I said, keeps selling the fact that he actually has lived in New York City for his entire life and has a real connection, unlike these two carpetbaggers, by the way. And then let's listen to Andrew Cuomo. And then you really have to ask the question, maybe there's a case to be made that Cuomo should have dropped out months ago and thrown his support behind Sliwa. And frankly, if there was a straight head-to-head, maybe Sliwa would have more of a chance, frankly, than this loser. Because first of all, nobody likes this guy. He's full of scandals. And then even in this campaign himself, he's completely uninspiring, which really is shocking to me, considering this is a guy who has multiple generations, literally, of experience in politics, and he's this bad at it. It's astonishing to me, but I guess this is what happens to establishment Democrats when they do not have the institutional support of the media or stuff. You find out these people actually are like completely uninspiring and untalented. But okay, let's compare that to Cuomo's opening statement. And then again, you ask the question, whose fault is it that Zohran's on pace to win? I point my fingers now, I change my mind again, at this guy.
Next is Andrew Cuomo. Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. New York's first, thank you to the moderators. Thank you all for being here. And go Knicks, go Knicks, go Knicks. I hope we get an update on the score.
Now, keep in mind, the reason he is saying this is because in the last mayoral debate, when they asked, it's game 7, would you rather be at a Mets game or a Knicks game? He literally gave the worst answer of all time, and that's the only reason he's now pandering and saying go Knicks. So, I mean, check this out for a second.
In a dream scenario, we know it's not possible, but the Mets are playing Game 7 of the World Series on the same night as the Knicks are playing Game 7 of the NBA Championship, and you can only go to one. Which one will it be, Mr. Sliwa?
Again, which baseball team?
This is the Mets, Game 7, Knicks, Game 7.
I'm not going to the Mets game. I'm a Yankee fan. True baseball fans either like one or the other. I'm going to the Knicks game. That's my team, the Knicks.
Mr. Cuomo?
I'm going to go half and half. I can make it back and forth.
All right. And Mr. Mamdani?
This is what New Yorkers are sick of. Just pick a team.
What's
Come on.
your answer?
I'd be there for the Knicks.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Sliwa and honestly, in that case, Mamdani are actually correct about that. You gave the worst politician answer of all time. You know, New York is a city notoriously who loves fence sitters, don't they? You know, that's very ingrained in the culture. No, it's obviously not, right? And you would know that about the culture of the city, Andrew, if you actually lived in the freaking city, but you didn't. You've been bungling basically every answer in this campaign. I'm like astonished how terrible it actually is. So just for context, that's the reason he's saying go Knicks, because he got torn apart last time after he fence sat the question about the sports teams. I'm going to go to both. Okay.
New York is the greatest city on the globe, but we are at a pivotal moment. And the voters are going to have to decide in this election what candidate has the plan to save the city and what candidate can get it done, not just talk about it.
Good point, but you don't have a plan either, dude. Like, what's your plan? You know, you're gonna govern as you govern as the governor of New York? That was so amazing. You did such an amazing job, Andrew. I mean, the New Yorkers really miss you as governor. They're just so nostalgic of that time. No, like, you are disgraced. You had to resign because of freaking scandal, and whatever you think of that scandal, whether you think it was real or it's like a Democrat attempt to get him out because they cooed him because they didn't like him anymore, I don't really care. It doesn't really like affect me. I'm just pointing out, right? Nobody freaking likes this guy. There's a reason your ceiling is at 31%, because the other 70% universally resent and despise you. And even if Curtis Sliwa dropped out, which a lot of his supporters, Cuomo supporters, currently are trying to get him to do, there is absolutely no guarantee that Sliwa support would even go to Cuomo, because again, your ceiling is here because like only a certain demographic even likes you at all. So
My main opponent has no new ideas. He has no new plan. It's Bill de Blasio rehash, and we know how that turned out. He's never run anything, managed anything. He's never had a real job. I will hire 5,000 new police, build 500,000 new units. I will cut taxes. I will grow jobs. And I will end this hate-mongering and division that is tearing this city apart, because that's not who we are as New Yorkers. You know I can make change. You know I can make government work. I've done it before. I'll be ready on day one. Okay.
But again, you didn't. You didn't. You say, I'm the only one who can govern. I have done it before. No, you didn't. You were a terrible governor. Like, what is this attempt to reinvent yourself, you know? And again, you know, I think he'd be a better mayor than Mamdani? Sure. But I'm just explaining for you why he's not leading Mamdani in this race. And again, it's not the fault of Curtis Sliwa. It's his own fault, because he sucks, okay? Compare Curtis's opening statement to Andrew's and tell me which is the candidate everyone should have united behind. Serious question. Who's more inspiring? Keep this in mind too, right? Mamdani is a populist. That's what he's playing into. He's a left-wing populist. Socialist, communist on top of that, sure. But he's playing into that energy, right? So what are you thinking? Because populism is popular these days in America, especially ever since 2016. You know, Curtis also is kind of a populist in his own right. And the brilliant thinking is, oh, let's run the totally uninspiring, failed establishment politician. And that's a better proposal than saying, let's outflank Mamdani with actually running with a guy who, you know, himself seems to have ideas for the people. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, let's hear Mamdani's.
Thank you. Next is Zohran Mamdani. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you to the moderators, and thank you to New Yorkers for tuning in. I know you'd rather be watching the Knicks. While there are 3 candidates on this stage, you will hear only 2 messages. My opponents, who spend more time trying to convince the other to drop out than actually proposing their own policies, will speak only of the past, because that's all that they know. I am the sole candidate running with a vision for the future of this city. Andrew Cuomo will spend much of tonight attacking me. He is a desperate man, lashing out because he knows that the one thing he's always cared about, power, is now slipping away from him. He will amplify right-wing talking points, he will share conspiracy theories, and he will do these things to make you feel that this should keep you up at night. But I've been spending the last year listening to New Yorkers, and I know what actually keeps you up. It's whether or not you can afford to live a safe and dignified life in this city. I have plans for our future. My opponents only have fear.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so again, a pure example of what I'm talking about. You compare Zohran and Cuomo, they're both running on vibes. It's, again, just the reason why Zohran is winning is because his vibes, think what you will of his stupid ideas, but his vibes come off as better than Andrew Cuomo, right? He's saying we're going to run to the future. Andrew Cuomo is like, we're going to run to the past. But that said, now let's break down the actual substance, because I thought on issues like rent control and homelessness and other things, you start to realize actually how quickly Zohran's ignorance on these issues comes apart. And that's where I thought it was really funny. And that's where I thought Cuomo did get in some moments, but especially Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, did shine here. So take a listen to this.
Mr. Sliwa, so Mr. Mamdani, you go first.
This is a stain on our city. to see this many children in our public school system be homeless, and to know that this is the 9th consecutive year that it's more than 100,000 of those children. What we need to do is ensure that next year is not the same, and we are going to do that by building the housing necessary such that New Yorkers are not priced out of this city or forced to live in shelters. And that's why my campaign is going to deliver 200,000 new affordable homes across the 5 boroughs, all while freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Now, in the public school system, we also have a program called Every Child and Family is Known. It links a child who is living in a homeless shelter with an employee of the public school system. It also links that employee with the child's family. It's been shown to increase attendance records, self-esteem, a level of belonging in that school system. I am going to increase that pilot program to more than 200 schools, and we're going to do it because we have to deliver for these children.
Well, Zohran's brilliant answer to the housing crisis is, first of all, to implement rent control, which has not worked in a single city in history it's ever been tried, and there's plenty of recent case studies. It actually causes rent in many cases to go up, and even when it hits the ceiling of the rent control, it creates a shortage of housing, because you're not allowed to really compete under a rent control system. So again, his great idea, it sounds good, right? But his great idea is basically let's actually limit the supply of housing to increase housing. But don't worry. What's the second solution? More affordable housing across all 5 boroughs. What is he saying in that process? Oh, let's put more Section 8 across everywhere in New York City. That's going to go over very well. That's actually very compatible with his crime policies. But that said, all right, take a listen to the other candidates' answers.
Mr. Cuomo. Yeah. Zohran is a great actor. He missed his calling. Freeze the rent sounds great. Yeah, it affects about 25% of the number of housing units in the city of New York. It's not a new idea. Bill de Blasio did it. It turned out to be a debacle. And it does nothing for 75% of the units. And for the 25, it just postpones the increase and actually causes us to lose units because landlords took them off the market.
Correct. I ask you to address the homeless children question, and we will get to rent freeze.
Yeah, well, the answer to homeless children is you need more affordable housing. And I'm saying freeze the rent was done under de Blasio. It doesn't work. It's a canard and just a great 3-word slogan for TikTok. The way to increase availability of affordable housing is to build affordable housing. I was the HUD secretary. I did it all across the country. We have 1% vacancy rate. We're not building enough affordable housing, and you need a competent, productive government to do that. And that's what I've done across the country, across the state. Make government work. You get the supply up, the rents will come down.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa. Okay, Mr. Mamdani, you were named, so you get 30 seconds.
We are in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 children in the New York City public school system being homeless. That means it began when Andrew Cuomo was the governor. And what did he do? What did he do about it? He did not do anything. He spent more money on a singing water fountain at LaGuardia Airport than he did on the average cost of an affordable housing unit. That is the record that we have in display, and what we need is a change in this city, not more of the same.
I mean, fair point by Mamdani, actually. Like, Cuomo did break down why Mamdani's idea is stupid, but you see the problem with Cuomo as a candidate? He's too easy to attack. You know, it's as easy as, like, attacking Kamala for all of Biden's failures in 2024. It's very, you know, you can sit here and complain, but you were the governor of the state and you did a terrible job. So anytime you think you get a hit in on Mamdani can just hit right back at you. And yes, it is valid criticism on both sides. That said, okay, here comes Curtis Sliwa, the candidate who, I again repeat, probably should actually be in the head-to-head with Mamdani at this point. Because Cuomo, let me repeat, you suck. You suck. Your answer, by the way, not even as good as what you're about to hear from the Republicans. So,
if I may, the homeless issue, number of homeless since I left, has more than doubled during his administration and the state's administration. Since I left, homeless rate has more than doubled. When I left, the vacancy rate on housing was 4.5%. It's now 1%. This man never even proposed a bill on housing or education. Never even proposed a bill.
True, both of you guys are do-nothing politicians. Okay, let's hear from an actual leader.
Going back and forth between the two of you, Mr. Sliwa, it's your turn.
Andrew, you didn't leave. You fled from being impeached by the Democrats in the state legislature. Leave. You fled. But let's get back on topic, because I'm the only candidate up here who's been into many of the over 300 Department of Homeless Services shelters, and the family shelters are unsafe for the families there. We have to make them safer. We have to bring teachers into the shelter. Many times, the mothers or the guardian have to get on bus after bus and take them to a school that's 2 or 2.5 hours away. This is a horror situation that's taking place, and we have to prioritize this, because this number of homeless children is going to grow. It takes 5 years to build affordable housing. We need to address it in the shelters itself to be able to handle it, so that the teachers can come in, whether they're public school teachers, charter school teachers, and I know there are a number of parochial school teachers who love children who would volunteer their efforts to do that.
We're going to give it to Katie Honan now.
See, so you can tell, as I said, there's only one person in this race who actually knows New York City like the back of his hand, and it's obviously Curtis. And frankly, it really is a shame, considering half of that segment was just these two going back and forth, that the real opposition to Mamdani is being drowned out by this absolute failed establishment loser clown. As I repeat. All right, look what happens when they bring up other issues of affordability and things like that.
Ask about another aspect of affordable housing.
We're going to switch to the millions of New Yorkers who are renters, specifically those in rent-regulated apartments. There are more than 1 million New Yorkers living in these units.
Zohran Mamdani is one of them, by the way.
Most of them rent stabilized. Mr. Mamdani, you've proposed a rent freeze for these tenants. Mr. Cuomo, you don't support that, and you've proposed a new means test for having a rent stabilized apartment. Mr. Mamdani, our question, how can you know in advance what the balance between landlord needs and tenant needs will be in future years? We've seen a lot of inflation in recent years. Haven't small landlords felt that pinch as well? And then we have other questions for the other candidates.
You know, we've seen time and again mayors use their power with the Rent Guidelines Board to hike the rent on those same more than 2 million New Yorkers. This same Rent Guidelines Board did a study that found that landlords of those units had seen their profits increase by more than 12%. Their response? Hike the rent on rent-stabilized tenants who have a median household income of $60,000. I believe that tenants across our city deserve relief, and I also believe that city government can work to alleviate the pressures for landlords of those units without having to put that burden on those same tenants. It's possible to keep New Yorkers in this city and to help landlords with rising insurance costs, water bills, Con Edison, and a broken property tax system.
So his answer was basically free money for everyone. We're going to freeze the rent. That way the tenants are fine. Oh, how are you going to bail out the landlords? We'll just give them money. Where's he going to get that money? What is the plan here? He doesn't even know. Literally, did you notice? I thought that was very telling. His answer was, I believe we can do it. The whole thing is vibes. I believe we can. What? What? So in other words, you don't actually have a plan, and your agenda here is just Looney Tunes. Let's hear what the other candidates have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa, what's your proposal for helping New Yorkers with the historically high rent burdens in either stabilized or market rate units?
Well, the first thing, we have 6,000 empty apartments in NYCHA. That is a sin. That's what the mayor can control right away. We need to move those families with children in. For those who live in rent-stabilized apartments and have their rent subsidized, Zohran Mamdani, we need to make sure that the big realtors, that they have to pay a vacancy tax because they're holding off on those apartments. They're not putting them out into the marketplace because they want to flip the building. Not for the mid-sized landlords or the small landlords. They need the help. And there are a number of people in the outer boroughs. They own a home. They live on the property. They're not absentee landlords. 2, 3, 4 apartments, and they're deciding not to put them in the marketplace when somebody either leaves or dies because they have to deal with tenant-landlord court, which is an absolute nightmare for small landlords. We got to make sure it's a fair playing field so that the tenants are protected, but the landlords are protected so they're not stuck with squatters for 4, 5, or 6 years, which destroys their equity and forces them to leave.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, you signed a law in 2019 repealing a means test to live in a rent-stabilized apartment. What's your position now and what changed in that?
Very important question there. Good answer by Sliwa, by the way. Very important question there for Cuomo. He repealed the means test. In other words, in order to live in a rent stabilized apartment before, you had to like show that you needed it, right? And Cuomo, because he used to be a progressive liberal, but ever since the Democrat Party basically cooed him out, he's trying to pretend to be like this independent moderate. Same thing with his brother, right? Is now saying that, oh, well, Mamdani's the crazy socialist one. I'm going to kind of have a common sense perspective to governance, except the last time you were in office, you didn't, right? You actually aligned a lot with Mamdani's policies and caused a lot of the problems New York's having now. So, just again, why this guy is so terrible as a candidate and why I blame the entire Mamdani phenomena on him. It's all his fault.
The 2019 law was added tenant protections that had never been added before, and protections against tenant evictions. But to answer your question, you cannot, Zohran said, the tenant doesn't have to pay more rent, but we're going to cover the landlord's costs. No, you can't do both, and that's not what happened. We did freeze the rent with de Blasio. We lost units because the landlords took them off the market because you weren't covering their costs. The reason the Rent Guidelines Board went up after the freeze was because you had to make up for all the backlog of costs. And this, I'm going to freeze the rent. People think it applies to all of them. No, just the 25% of units that are rent stabilized. And by the way, it's all BS because the mayor doesn't have the power to do it anyway. The Rent Guidelines Board does, and he doesn't control the Rent Guidelines Board. So nothing is going to happen. It's all this. It's just more political blather.
Mr. Mamdani, you were invoked. You can respond.
If you want a candidate for mayor who tells you everything that he cannot do, then Andrew Cuomo should be your choice. If you want...
No, but you literally can't do it. He just explained to you why.
A candidate for mayor who will use every tool at their disposal, including the 9 appointees at the Rent Guidelines Board, all of whom are appointed by the mayor, then I am the candidate for you.
We have to go to Errol, sir. I'm sorry, you weren't named, so I'm sorry. We're going to go to Errol, talk about development.
My name was invoked. Can I get the rebuttal?
Quickly.
Okay, quickly. The mayor doesn't appoint the Rent Guidelines Board. He's wrong. They are appointed to a term, and they're on holdovers. And when the term is over, you can appoint. But it takes a number of years to get control.
Okay, understood. Candidates.
Right. So I think that's the prime example of what we said in the beginning. Mamdani's running on vibes. He has absolutely no clue what he's talking about. And Cuomo did get in that hit on him, although there's plenty of criticism. And yeah, I mean, look at Mamdani, right? He has no answer to that. He's just like, whoa, it's literally like running for a school presidency in like 5th grade or something, I believe we can. How are we going to make the lunch free and give everybody ice cream? Trust me. Don't listen to that guy. He's too much of a realist. Listen to me, the insane Looney Tunes idealist. Like, there's no way so it's actually really hilarious because he has 2 core proposals. This is like his top policy platform as mayor, besides all the crazy pro-crime and anti-police stuff. Is number 1, he said he was going to freeze the rent for rent stabilized apartments. Number 2, he says he's going to have free buses. Okay. His plan for paying for the free buses is saying that he's going to raise New York State's income tax, even though the legislature and the governor, who are in control of that, both said they're not going to do it. So strike 1 there, Mr. Mamdani. Number 2 is he's going to freeze the rent, but as is pointed out by Andrew Cuomo, and he is correct about, he does not have the power over the advisory board who controls the rent-stabilized apartment rates. So his 2 core campaign platforms are completely untenable. But there you go. Now, that said, I would like to also shift attention here to the topic of crime, and this is somewhere where I think both Cuomo and Mamdani are awful on. Mamdani's publicly awful. He wants to, empty the prison population of Rikers Island. He says violence is an artificial construct. He wants to send social workers, as he's been saying, to respond to 911 calls and all that stuff. Cuomo is pretending to be an old-school Democrat who's pro-police, but again, when you look at his actual record, of governance in the state of New York, the matters on BLM seem to suggest the opposite. And then, of course, we have Curtis Sliwa absolutely hitting a home run out the park. So take a listen to this answer as well.
Now, is he lying to the DSA? Is he lying to New Yorkers? Is he lying to everybody? Who knows? On the raise the age, I passed the law. I support the law. We were one of only 2 states that put 16 and 17-year-olds in adult prisons. It was inhumane. It was cruel and unusual, and I'm proud of that law. It's administered by local governments. Some are doing it better than others. If Zohran thought that there was money locked up in Albany, maybe he should have gone to Albany and proposed a bill to release it.
Support keeping the law. Mr. Sliwa.
Once again, the architect of Raise the Age, Governor Cuomo, the apprentice to him, Zohran. It's personal for me. My oldest son, Anthony, last October was the victim of a vicious gang assault that could have killed him. And what happened to these juveniles? Cut free, because they went to family court, not criminal court. So how can both of you look at me? I almost lost my oldest son to gang violence, and the perpetrators went to family court and got a little pat on the wrist and was sent home to do it again and again. No. We need to start charging juveniles who commit violent crime in criminal court, and I'll appoint criminal court judges who follow the law and don't just release them because of no cash bail.
Bang! From the top rope. And it highlights the obvious. Both candidates from the Democrat side are horrible on this crime issue. I've said before, by the way, I don't know why the Cuomo campaign or the anti-Mamdani opposition is not spending more time talking about this, because actually people think, right? What do you think is Zohran's worst issue as a political candidate? A lot of people are going to say the economics or his terrible socialist ideas. I always say no. That is bad, sure, but the number one is public safety. Because, forget the freaking crazy rent control that he's not even going to be able to implement. You know what he can immediately do overnight? Just start releasing the criminals out into the streets. He can immediately reform the NYPD to send social workers and all that dangerous garbage. And that's going to pose the most immediate threat to your life. Andrew Cuomo says, oh, well, I'm not going to be like that because I'm going to hire 500 new police officers. Okay, but both of you guys, you can hire all the police you want, by the way. The reality in a place like New York City is basically every 6 months, they continue to arrest the same 500 to 1,000 criminals. Immediately, the justice system lets them out and back onto the streets, and neither of you guys have an answer to it, right? And then you wonder why NYPD is demoralized, as Zohran was talking about before. You wonder why they have a retention crisis and all this stuff. It's because of that right there. No one wants to be dealing with this. And yet neither of them has an actual answer to the real criminal justice reform that we need. Not, you murdered someone, hey, let's let you back onto the street. No, you murdered someone, you attacked someone, you need to be put in jail. Curtis Sliwa, absolutely, it's personal for him. You felt it. It was really an inspired response, and he's absolutely correct about that. So again, just another issue where he is rapidly establishing himself as my favorite candidate, personally speaking. Same thing, by the way, comes up on the argument of the free buses, because again, this is vibes versus someone who actually knows the city, and secondly, has actual ideas to implement. Take a listen.
Sure, first off, Zohran, I get a good belly laugh.
Zohran, bro.
Oh, all right. I'll keep practicing.
I got you.
I get a good belly laugh every time I hear you say free fare in the subways. Half the people don't pay anyway. How about fair enforcement? I'm the only one who says we have all kinds of fare programs for the indigent and the poor. But if you don't pay your fare, there needs to be enforcement. And by the way, I've taken the subway almost every day of my life since I was 5. The worst time was the summer of 2017, the summer of hell, Andrew Cuomo,
You're right,
when
Curtis.
you were running the subway system as the head of the MTA. I don't trust you with anything to do with mass transit.
How would you make it better?
Oh, very simply. Everybody pays their fare, enforcement, more cops in the subway system. And by the way, we can get more people to voluntarily actually sponsor their subway system stations, clean it up and beautify them and add some life so the community has input into the subway that they have to go through the sleaze and slime all the time.
Boom. I mean, exactly. This is what I've been saying about it the entire time. First of all, when Zohran proposes the free buses, I asked, number one, what is the point of that? You know, when people talk about the affordability crisis in New York, I mean, fair enough on rent, but you mean to tell me the $3 bus fare? The poor people are like, you know, if I could just pay the bus fare for free, then I would fundamentally be changing my life. Like, it's not necessary, first of all. But secondly, as Sliwa points out, a bunch of them don't even pay the rent. A bunch of people, when it comes to, I mean, the fare, I should say, a bunch of people, when it comes to the subway, just freaking hop the turnstile. And the city already has, you know, programs to subsidize the poor people who can't afford it. So what's the point of allowing someone who's making like $100,000 a year, as one example, to, oh, well, let's waive your bus fare as well? No. And then, as I've been saying, what's going to be the ultimate outcome of a free bus? It's not just that it's expensive or just not practical. It's that ultimately who's going to be taking it over, that free bus? It's going to be vagrants, it's going to be drug addicts, it's going to be the criminals and stuff, you know, the very people who they said, oh, well, when we did free buses, this is the actual study that Zohran cites, by the way. When they did free buses, we saw the assaults against bus drivers go down. It's like, oh, you mean to tell me the crazy people who were assaulting bus drivers for not being allowed on are now just going to come on and terrorize the regular people again? You know? No, Curtis absolutely has the right answer. The problem with New York City's public transit is not that it's not free, it's that it is dangerous and dirty. Yes, you need to clean up the subway stations. Yes, actually, if you enforce the fare more strictly, many of the safety incidents that you see on subways and buses would not be happening. Because the vast majority of the time, right, the people who are stabbing each other, attacking people, acting crazy, they're the ones not paying the fare. There's a close correlation. You need to actually price the vagrants and criminals out of the subway system so that way it is accessible for the working people. And yes, I mean, everyone knows this. Subway stations in New York are full of trash and rats. Why not clean that up and beautify it as well? This is the United States of America after all. Same thing, by the way. I know this is a long video, but on the issue of education, okay? He's pressed specifically on his education policy and once again just provides a word salad.
Mr. Mamdani, you said you would give up mayoral control of schools and share decision-making with various stakeholders. But in the last debate, you said you're still for mayoral accountability for educational outcomes. This has confused some people about how you can give up final authority but still hold yourself accountable. Can you try to clarify that?
I remain opposed to mayoral control. And I also believe that the mayor is accountable for that which happens in this city. I will not shirk that accountability, even when we are putting together a system that has greater involvement for parents, for educators, for students. Look, 1 in 300 Americans is a student in the New York City public school system. This is a system where we are failing to deliver excellence to students, to teachers, to parents, and it is time to have a mayor who understands not only the crisis in front of us, but the fact that we have to change our ways if we want to change our results. And that is what we are running on, a plan for the future, not to simply relitigate the past.
Yeah, well, again, Zohran is so articulate. He's such an authentic guy and a real communicator. Really? Did you just hear that? He didn't say, what does that even mean? Nobody knows. But of course, this is the divide in the race. It's like you have sleepy Andrew Cuomo versus kooky Zohran Mamdani versus Captain Curtis, okay? You know, it's funny, people have been making memes about the differences between these two guys because it's like Zohran Mamdani's like, oh, blah, 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 something needs to be free. Andrew Cuomo's like, I'm an establishment liar. And Captain Curtis is like, yeah, I got freaking shot 5 times and I survived and I've been like a crusader on the streets. I'm literally like the Batman of New York City and no one wants to vote. It's like the choice here is obvious, folks. And yeah, frankly, Zohran had a terrible debate performance, but the issue is it doesn't really matter, right? He's going to win this election in a couple of weeks. And that is because, frankly, the Democrat establishment decided to run in opposition like the worst possible candidate they could. You know, it's actually astonishing to think about. Because if Andrew Cuomo had remotely even tried to win that Democrat primary, he would have done it, right? He had a huge inherent advantage over Zohran Mamdani. Who the heck is that? But basically, he didn't even make an attempt, okay? He just walked into it thinking he was entitled to the position because his last name is Cuomo. And a lot of sources on the ground in New York City basically said Mamdani actually tried to win. You know, he had a ground game. He was knocking doors. He was getting himself out there. Cuomo, nowhere to be seen, right? Finally, in the last couple of weeks, he's trying to make a media presence, but I haven't even heard from this guy, frankly, for most of the race. I've heard way more from freaking Eric Adams when he was in the race than Cuomo. And again, I say it's astonishing that a campaign can be this politically incompetent, right? But, you know, your response to that utter rejection of him in the Democrat primary is, oh, let's run him again in a split-way race. And surely this is going to work. And then, you know, on November 4th, they're all going to sit here and blame Curtis Sliwa for losing. No, it is Andrew Cuomo's fault, okay? He is the reason, honestly, I blame him 100%. I'll be honest with you. The entire reason why Zohran Mamdani exists is because of Andrew Cuomo and everything he represents, by the way. The Democratic establishment, who is so lame and uninspiring, they have no even inherent ability. Like, they're not even able to push back the radical tide of Marxism, communism, socialism, pro-crime radicalism, all of these things. And then they say it's our fault, right? Common theme. They're going to say Zohran Mamdani exists because Donald Trump, okay? Because the left-wing voter base sure has been radicalized. But again, whose fault is that? The people in charge of the left-wing voter base, you know? Or they're going to say it's the fault of Curtis Sliwa. Again, I just repeat there, no, that's just simply not true. So, you know, again, I say, going into the election, if you live in New York City, feel free to vote your conscience, you know? If you're someone who wants to try to vote for Cuomo as a compromise vote, because maybe he has a 1% chance of winning, then I don't blame you for that. But honestly, at this point, I'll say, like, my endorsement's behind Sliwa. Because, as I said, Cuomo has just been such a terrible candidate. He really has let so many people down that, even with the compromise factor, I just can't get behind this guy anymore. You know, he's awful. He's awful. I don't know what else to say. With that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you were new, and until next time, God bless and peace.